Hello, and welcome to this presentation on playing guitar on three strings by Guitar Union. So I recently did a video of playing on two strings, and now in this video we're going to break down all of the three string possibilities for guitar. When it came to two strings, there were 15 different combinations of two strings. With three strings, there are actually 20 different combinations. And so I have these written out here. I think the most important ones are the ones that involve adjacent strings. And the reason I say that is because it's a little more common and easier to play in those. But there are some usages for ones that have strings skipped, whether they be melodic, harmonic, or for ensemble purposes and whatnot. So we'll take a peek at some of these here before diving into them. As you can see, the combinations are going to be either adjacent, of which there are 4 of them, and then when we start skipping one string, we see we have a number of combinations there, and skipping two strings and 3 strings, and actually the way it's ordered, there's more than there's different ones where they skip 1 string and 2 string, but we'll look at that all in order. And obviously, if we're playing 3 strings, the maximum number of strings in a row that we could skip would be 3, but there comes out 20 combinations with this. And if you think there's another one, check the combination calculator. Several of those are available online. Anyhow, let's check into these. When we use the E, A, and D strings, we see that we have a row of notes that form into, let me get rid of some of these first here. Made some scale degrees here. We see that we have E, A, and D in order as the 3, 6, 2. But when we look at it, if we look at the bottom here, the 1, 4, and the 5 are a pattern that happens on those 3 strings, C, F, and G, and it happens right here on the 3rd fret as well. So that could be just like a basis for building roots 1, 4, 1, 5, so to speak. If we look at the root C being the 1, we see that the pattern goes 1, 4, flatted 7 if there were a note here. So in each case, this would be a 1, 4, flat 7. And using scale degrees to figure out your intervals is helpful with that. We can also see if C is the 1, we have the 5 and the 1 right here. So on these 3 strings, using them for power chords, or we can build triads off it, like C, E, and G, and so on and so forth. Scales on this end. Like I said, anytime we have adjacent strings, we're going to have intervals that are easy to play because they're accessible and we're not skipping any strings. So noticing that we have an ADG right here and then an ADG right here, we can see that these strings have the same combination of intervals. A to D to G is a 4th. And so, everything we see right here would simply be, start right here and then just continuing on up. It's when we get to D, G, and B where we're now dealing with an interval of a fourth and then a major third. Now these three strings though give us major chords on the same fret. So here we have G, B, and D, which is a G chord, C, E, and G, which is a C chord, and then F, A, and C, which is an F chord, back to the G chord. And it also gives us conveniently fingered minor chords right here, A, C, and E, and then D, F, and A, and then E, G, and B. Then you have your diminished chord right there as well. So that's what happens when you build a fourth and a third. It's actually a bring the oops, that won't work because that's the wrong the wrong one. That's why I have another one here. And just have to edit it. Get rid of this and get rid of so you see we have, if G is the 1, it's the 3 and the 5, or if C is the 1, then we have 5, 7, 2, which is the G major chord, and 1, 3, 6, which is the A minor chord. In any case, once again, adjacent strings make it easy to find chords. Now, coming to these three strings, we see that now we have a minor third, or a major third, and then a perfect fourth, which forms a minor chord with this note being the root. So E, G, and B forms the minor, the E minor, A, C, and E forms the A minor, D, F, and A form the D minor. We can still, of course, do major chords here. The major chords look like this, where you have 1, 5, and the 3 right here. 1, 5, and 3. This is, of course, a smaller portion of the short bar F chord. But minor chords are very convenient on these three strings because of they're all 3 frets in a row. Okay, moving on. So now we have our first string skipping right here. And as far as, you know, functionality for what this is and what this does, it's kind of more of a matter of just being aware of what's on this string when you're playing mostly in this area. For instance, if I'm playing, say, like a 1-5 and wanted to know where my 4 is, it's you know, right here. So knowing that we're dealing with, you know, a 1, 4, and a minor third in order helps us figure out some of the other intervals. It could be too where, you know, we're looking for, you know, if I'm playing a 1-5 right here and I'm looking for the nearest third, you know, if I'm playing a 1-5 like this, I can't play that third, not harmonically, but I can reach over and play this note. And like I said, it's not a matter of that we have to eliminate and leave this note out, but sometimes if we don't break it down, it all gets like lost in the mix when we're just looking at like full bar chords, for example, without breaking it down into 3 pieces. So here we have, you know, like the opportunity to play our fifths and then see what is our inconvenient reachable areas over here. As a chord by itself, if this is the root, then we have our fifth right here and our seventh right here, our minor seventh. So a lot of times that can be convenient for forming seventh chords, or just knowing where your seventh is in relationship to that. And of course, if you're playing a D7, then your F sharp would be right here, but breaking it down like this, we just know that we have our 1, 5, and minor seventh like that. Next two examples, the A, D, and B strings and the D, G, and E have a perfect fourth, then followed by a major sixth, which is from the root a major ninth right here, which makes convenient the C added 9 that we do frequently by adding the pinky to the D finger right here. So utilizing this for ninths is pretty useful. And so basically the same thing would happen right here, because remember, whether we land on the B string or cross over the B string, we have the same relationship. So these two examples have the same relationship. They're just on different strings. We could see D, G, E, D, G, E, C, F, D, C, F, D. So these two have the same relationship. Now we're in a situation where we have our E string, A string, and B string. And so the E string to the B string is a fifth plus an octave. So when we're in this situation, we have, let's say we're playing a perfect fifth right here. We have our other note right here. So a lot of times this fifth will be played like in a full bar chord shape. The A, D, and E will also bear the same exact relationship to this. If we take a look, see we have A, D, E, A, D, E. Once again, we have two strings and land on the B string, two strings and cross over the B string. This is a two-string skip right here. In this example, we have a three-string skip where the octave is on the other side of it. Obviously, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, some of these are mostly for conceptual purposes and not necessarily chord purposes, but if you've played enough pieces or experimented with enough things, then you'll see there is like a use for breaking down each and every possibility. Carrying on, we now have a combination of which we have the E string and skip the A string, and in this case right here, this gives us some minor seventh shapes that don't have the fifth, because if we were to have the fifth in the minor seventh, for example, then it would have to be right here. But so if we exclude the fifth, we can see we have 1, 7, and then the minor third right here. So in a lot of situations, when we skip a single string, there's a lot of chords that can be made: bass note, skip, play a couple notes. Some of this could be better for finger style, if you're plucking strings with your finger style rather than using a pick. But in any case, this is going to be a different set of intervals than what we see here, because what we see here is a B string. So now we have a root minor seventh and then ninth. Or, if we look at it like having our major third and then our the A would be the ninth behind it, but that's not as common a usage. But in any case, we can also look at root, skip the fifth, and major third right here, much the same as you have in G or in F. In this next example, we have yet again another change. None of these are actually the same, because here we have minor seventh, minor third, here we have minor seventh, ninth, and then here we have major sixth and a ninth. So the combinations on all of these are going to be different. And again, for the sake of this video, I'm just showing the possibilities, and perhaps in some other videos we'll take a look at some usages to these. But when you look at them, perhaps string skipping, for example, I've seen a lot of melodic patterns that come from skipping strings that just make natural the jumping of melodic patterns. So that could be a potential use for this one, for example, taking a look at this from a melodic standpoint, playing A, B, C, G, A, B, E, F, G in that order and skipping strings rather than just playing a full scale. It might give you some other improvisational ideas. And then similarly, we have this one right here, and in this case, both of these are the same. We have the minor seventh, perfect fifth, minor seventh, perfect fifth right here. So in this case, we're going to see a lot of lines, straight lines, because whether we have a minor seventh, or of which there are 3, or the dominant seventh, which there is 1, here we would have the major, here we have the F, E, and the C, which is the F major seventh, or the C major seventh without its third. And then the only other one is the diminished fifth right here. This example would again yield the same results. We see EDB, EDB, GFD, GFD. Continuing on, now here we have most of these right here are going to be unique in terms of there's not going to be more than one place we do this, where a lot of times you see, you could do it starting on the E string or the A string because of the string skipping. You can't do it here. Here we just have the seventh, the minor seventh, and then the octave. So naturally the octave is all going to land on the same note, and then the minor seventh, we have minor sevenths on every note except for the fourth and the root, which have major sevenths. In this case here, we're building, we have a minor, basically a minor scale or a minor chord. We have our E minor, our A minor, and these are notes that come from the E minor shape. You picture this note and this note here. We have an E minor or like an A minor bar chord. And again, this is just helpful to know which are your scale degrees, when you're playing a full chord. Sometimes people just play the full chord, but they have no idea which notes they're actually playing within that full chord. They just know the shape of it. And breaking this down into 3 strings can help with that. And now here we have another ninth and then a fifth. So in this case here, we have all of our perfect fifths on the outside, and then the ninth would be this note right here. And as we can see, most of the time the major ninth is there, except for the B to the C or the E to the F. Those are the minor ninths. So we have root 9 fifth, root minor ninth, diminished fifth, root 9 fifth, root 9 fifth. Here we have the duplicate octave and then the third, so we're going root third, root, root third, root, root third, root. And again, these are part of E bass stringed bar chords, but this just kind of tells us where our third is present within them. Obviously, the two outside notes, if you're playing a E-based bar chord, they're going to be the two outside notes. So this would be this note is where your third is. And then finally, we have root 5 ones, root 5 1, root 5 1, root 5 root, root 5 root. So, this is helpful just from the standpoint of, making sure you know that whatever you have here, let's say you're playing power chords, same fret right here, you got your fifth behind you right here. And as we've talked about many times, there's every note in the scale has its fifth except for the seventh, which has a diminished fifth. So usually there's going to be the note behind you there. So check these out. Play with 3-string combinations, see what kind of cool sounds you can make. Let me know what you think of the video, whether it's useful to you or not, and hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.